the family I lived with in the US is not the only Christians that I have been exposed to. I have been exposed to different types of Christians as well. And those were definitely the most extremist fanatics ones. But overall, yeah, I wanted to know. So, Scott, what do you think of families like the one that I had to live with, and what's your view on the different intensities of Christians? Because I'm
Yeah.
really relaxed about the religion, and others are just like, wow.
Yeah.
It's too bad your camera is not on, because I would really like to see your face.
I know. I'm so bummed. I keep trying periodically. I was trying to think if I could switch my camera around so you could see me from the other standpoint, but then I wouldn't be able to see you guys, and I wouldn't be able to see myself, and then how would I even know if I existed?
Existential
Maybe if you put a
crisis.
mirror.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Okay, Joey, you answer what you thought about the Christians that Irina lived with. I'll find a mirror, and we'll see if it works. Be right back.
Awesome. Oh man, thinking about that whole story, it makes me cringe all over. But I'm also the type of guy, and I specifically said this before, that I would rebel so hard that I would be kicked out of that house. You laughed, which is praiseworthy. They would kick me out in week 3, I think, maybe something close to that. Because I would rebel the hardest way. I would find a way to find my own music. I will bring that to the house. I would definitely not only watch a Disney Channel, because I would hang myself from a balcony if I would only watch a Disney Channel. But the
Oh,
same with all those kind of young kids in the house, I would totally go nuts.
yeah. Well, I mean, precisely because of the experiences that I had with my mother, there is one thing that I was taught, and is to be very respectful, and not to really discuss religion. Hey, it's not bad.
It's a mirror.
So yeah, I was taught to be respectful and to be very polite. Yeah, and and these people, uh, they are welcoming into their house, and no matter how different they are, they're not really doing anything mean to me. They're not being violent, and nothing like that. It's just a difference of opinions, and it was something temporary. So
Mhm.
I didn't see, and I am by default not really raised to be like a rebel, to rebel myself like that. So, um, but it's also not the only Christians I've been exposed to, and yeah, that's pretty good, Scott. You see,
Yeah, for those who can't see, Scott actually brought a mirror, and we're now looking at him sitting behind his desk.
told you the mind of an engineer comes with great ideas.
Really good idea.
So yeah, it's not the only Christians that I have encountered in my life. However, I have to say that even though they were the most fanatic ones, the reason why when I somebody tells me they're Christians, I'm like, all right, it was nice meeting you.
Bye bye.
See you later, alligator. It's because I've met Christians from other countries as well. I've met Christians in Colombia, for example. And one thing that I've noticed is that, Christians are supposed to follow what Jesus has preached, like love thy neighbor and that sort of thing. And for me, from my perspective, from what I have learned about Jesus, about what he wanted people to understand and to follow, is precisely love and acceptance, right? He died for us, for all of us, regardless of our supposed sins, regardless of our race, regardless of our sexual preference, everything. We are all just their kids, right? And their so what bothers me is that a lot of the Christians that I have met, they think they are in a pedestal and that they are better than others because they are Christians. And whoever doesn't agree with what they think is right, then those people, are punished or going to go to hell or whatever it is that they believe. So you notice a lot of things, of like, for example, I am a huge ally, LGBT ally, right? And it's one of the things that I crush with the most with most religions, actually, because if you take like Catholics, Christians, Muslims, Jewish, etc., most religions are against homosexuality, and so that is one of the biggest clashes that I have with it. And I remember having, like, knowing a lot of Christians in Colombia, Christians, not Catholics, who would just be super mean people, and they would just hide behind Christianity to act in a certain way, to be mean towards other people because they were not thinking or believing the way they were. And for me, that is crap. So that is the reason, like, I really have to say Scott is probably the only Christian that I have met in my life that I am like, oh, this guy's super nice, and you can talk to him about a lot of things. And, like, he's not shocked when you talk about homosexuality or things like that. He's very open, but it doesn't happen with most people that I have met. So that's, yeah, that just wanted to make that clarification. It's not only that family that I had, but I have had other experiences, and it always feels like they are superior to you, and they preach things that they don't actually apply, or they take the Bible way too literal to apply certain beliefs or rules, and they really want to force it on people. And for someone who is so open-minded and so respectful as well towards different beliefs, religions, and so on, it really bothers me.
Yeah, it's a great thought. It's a great response. There's like so many good things I could be talking through. It's such a weird setup. I don't know where to look. This makes me look normal, but then I'm just looking at myself in a mirror. This makes me look, I'm just like a nerd boy typing away. Don't know if this one's going to go on YouTube. So for podcast listeners, they're like, can they just stop talking about it? Okay, so Irina, what would you most want me to respond to? Our time frame too is we're nearing the end. I think you've just ensured that you're a repeat guest. Congratulations. We're going to have you on again to really go into some of these things.
All right, I want to go more into, what do you think about fanatism and preaching something they don't actually apply?
Preaching something they don't actually apply. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. So this is one of the hard things about Christianity, and I'm thinking that it exists in other religions as well, though I haven't done enough research to know. But it's this idea of paradoxes. Two things that exist within the religion that if you emphasize one, it feels like you're losing the other. And so within Christianity, you guys can still hear me? My internet's...
Yeah, we hear you, we see you.
I exist. So one of the things within Christianity is this balance between grace and truth. We get this from the first chapter of John. It talks about how Jesus operated within both grace and truth. And so grace is the side of Jesus and love and acceptance, everything that you're talking about, of seeing people where they're at, not judging them for where they should be, of, grace is, the definition of grace is unmerited or undeserved favor. So you loving somebody even when they don't deserve it. That's where we get the idea of like unconditional love. There's no conditions here. There's nothing you have to do to prove that God loves you, or nothing you have to do to earn his love. So that's the grace side. And that is in the Bible. And it is crucial. You cannot have Christianity without that. And then there's the truth side, which is also crucial. You can't have Christianity without this side. And so different churches, I think, believe in both, but they'll emphasize one over the other. And so there's a way, I think, to do this well. But the truth side is, like it or not, Christianity does have exclusivity in it. There's a need for repentance. It's not just like anybody can get in. We're just a happy club. Just talk about Jesus and you're good. There's a real need for turning. Repentance means to turn. So you're heading one direction, and to turn and reorient your life under Jesus's teachings, how he lived his life, modeling your life after him. And that includes everything. So that's like your sexuality, who you are as a sexual being. That now comes under the authority of Jesus. What he says goes. And who you are in your marriage, Jesus' authority. What he says goes. And who you are at your job, and how you make money, and all that jazz. The reason we submit to that, the reason we go for that, is because as Christians we believe Jesus is worth it. So he was willing to die for me, and so now I give my life back, basically. And so Christianity does have a view on sexuality. It does have a view on integrity, or just whatever it might be. And so it's a weird balance. It's a hard thing to figure out how to do. So some people are going to be on the truth side, and they'll say, if I'm not telling people what is the right way to live according to God's standards, then I'm not being a good Christian, because I need to inform them of what they're missing, or what they don't know. And then on the grace side, we need to love people where they're at first, build a relationship, and then maybe help them think through ways to change their life or whatever. But on the hyper grace side, it's like everybody gets in. God doesn't care how you live, but that's not true. God does care how we live. He cares how we treat each other. And then too much on the truth side, you lose the love. You're like, do you hate me right now? Why are you so angry about who I am as a person? Hypothetically, if I was like a homosexual, if I was gay or whatever. And so Christianity is so hard, because you have these two scales, and you can find examples on both sides. You can find examples you really like, and examples you really don't like on both sides. But the reality is that paradox, that tension, exists within the text. It's not easily defined. Both sides are able to point to biblical verses that say, see, therefore we're going to do this. And the other side is, well, wait, what about this verse? See, therefore we're going to do this. So for me, okay, so then with fanaticals or fundamentals potentially with your church, on the one hand, I see a lot of devotion. Like, they're really with it. But then part of me also wonders if they're forcing it on their kids. And it seemed like they forced it on you. And I don't think that's healthy, because anytime something's forced, it creates a rebellious spirit. It just creates like who are you to tell me what to do? So I'm all for all the different things that they did. I love that they read the Bible as a family. I think that's super cool. And, they're going to church and they have this community. But if it's all forced and the kids don't have much free will in the situation, you're just setting them up for bitterness or rebellion or confusion in the future. So especially how they treated you, I'm just like, come on. This girl from she doesn't even know English very well. And you're just like, this is the law of the land. And they didn't seek to understand, like, were you just watching an hour-long special on Victoria's Secret? And you'd be like, no, it's just a commercial. Like, this just happened to be on. So that's the kind, like, I don't know them and I don't want to judge them, but it sounds like they were so focused on conversion, so focused on following the rules, that they missed the person for the rules. They missed you for their schedule
and
their conviction.
and what you're saying is precisely, it's not just what that family was doing, but it's what a lot of Christians try to do.
For
They
sure.
just get into arguments of how they are right, and their religion is the only truth, and so on. So, as like what you just explained is very interesting, the part between truth and grace, right? um However, one of the parts that bothers me is, so I guess my biggest problem is with those people that are on the truth, because those people, why are they telling others what they need to change about themselves when they haven't done the work on themselves first, right?
Hmm.
I can give you an example. I still do. I have kind of a frenemy, so she's Colombian, she's Christian. uh this woman is very, so okay, I'm gonna back up a little the story. When I moved to Europe, um, there was the crisis, the financial crisis in 2008, right? That was affecting so many people. And I remember her saying, so I was telling her, like, I needed to find a new apartment. So I was living in Paris. I needed to find a new apartment because the one that I was staying was just like rented in a rush, in order for me to get my visa. But it was way too expensive. So it was 23 square meter apartment for 1,050 euros a month. So it was crazy expensive. So my parents asked me to start looking for something cheaper. And when I told her that, she was like, wait, so your family is struggling with money. Wait, I forgot, do you believe in God or not? I was like, well, yeah, in my own way. And she, oh, then you're gonna be good because like all of us who believe in God, we're not really being hit by the crisis. I'm like, that makes no sense. I'm sorry, but no, God doesn't do wonders, because if that was the case, you wouldn't see so many Christians struggling with money, or whatever religion. That's not how it works. And she the reason why I call her frenemy is because she's kind of she's a person that often makes very passive aggressive comments, and is one of those people that constantly try to put others down to feel better about herself. But she preaches a lot, to follow God, and she's against homosexuals, and she's into this and so on. So it's one of those things like, sweetie, you need to do a lot of work on yourself before you can focus on turning other people around. And that is the part that bothers me. I think that religion should be like, or Christians, for example, or other religions, it should be a relationship between you and God. How do I make myself better based on what God wrote? Whether it is, in the Torah, in the Bible, and the Quran, whatever it is. But how do I make myself better as a person? How do I judge the rest of the world, and how do I turn them when I haven't been able to do that work on myself?
That's actually awesome. I think that's a really good word. Yeah, I just think that's spot on. And honestly, everything that you just described is biblical. Like, Jesus taught that. He taught about don't address the speck in someone else's eye when you've got a log in your own eye, which is such a silly, visual. But it's so important, like, to come at somebody else when you haven't examined what you do, how you act, how you come across.
And by the way, just to clarify, this doesn't happen just to religious people, huh?
For sure.
People do that all the time. It's always easier to judge people, that take a good, hard look at yourself and work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only thing you can control, is yourself. Now you see why my mom calls me little guru.
Yeah, there it is.
We went full circle, guys.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, one last thought on that. We're nearing our end, but there's this theologian, and I forget his name. Maybe if we have notes at the end of at the bottom of our podcast, Joey, we'll find this and put it in. But someone had written into the newspaper, what is the greatest problem in the world? and different people were writing in responses, and this was a while ago, so they didn't know about global warming, but someone would have said that. And they're like, it's industry, it's this, these people, it's these people. And this theologian, this Christian guy, his response was super simple. What's the world's greatest problem? And he just said, I am. And I think that's what I try to live by. It's just the acknowledgement that I have just as much ability to do evil in the world as anyone else. And that potential lives in me. And so if that's not resolved, I have no right, or if it's not looked at, examined, worked on, I have no right to take somebody else to task. And especially when it's a non-believer, somebody who doesn't believe in Christianity, I can't hold them to Christian values. They don't believe in it. Mm-hmm. So I can try to pitch or talk to them about why I believe what I believe, and why I actually think it's beneficial, hypothetically. But yeah, I can't be like, yeah, it's almost silly to me to think like holding somebody to something that they themselves don't believe. But yeah, I think everything that you just talked about, I think that's so important. And so in vein of that, in light of putting on our guru hat, in our last 4 minutes, what is something that each one of us would like to say to our audience, to those listening, or something that you're going to be taking away from this discussion?
Oh man, let's start that party off.
Thanks, Joe.
No, I think the main thing that I take away from this podcast is that I should not sit my pants in front of a camera.
Oh man, I really hope people get to see that.
No, at one moment, for the people listening, I took a pee break very silently, but I forgot that there's a camera, so that's great. No, but serious answer though, the amount of things that Irina went through and how she still is even though she's mostly closed off towards religion and Christianity, she's still one of the most open-minded people that I know. So that's very interesting to me, and that's something I take with me after this.
Yeah, I think for me, your explanation, Scott, about like the different sides, let's say the truth, grace, and super grace, kind of like the super grace moves, but yeah, that explained to me a bit better of what the differences are. Sadly, most of the people I have encountered tend to be on the truth side, because I think it's just the easier one. We as humans, we have that tendency of always judging and trying to improve others instead of ourselves. So that was very insightful to see those two differences.
Cool. The super grace ones you also probably haven't encountered because there's no need for them to share their faith. Everyone's got it, so they're the more closeted, or it's just something personal.
True.
For me, I've really enjoyed this. Irina, it's really fun to have you on here. Joey and I have been talking about how we wanted a spicy episode. And you brought the spice. Would love to continue this conversation, keep going. But your experience, kind of like what Joey said, your experience, I think, is really valuable for Christians to hear. I think it's really important for us to know how we're coming across. I started off with, I'm a believer in Christianity who's trying to figure out how we got such a bad PR, public relations, like rap. And I think we dived into it a little bit. So I'm hoping Christians who are listening to this, like, take note. Like, we need to know, even if it's our good intentions, it's not always communicating what we're wanting it to communicate. And so I think for me, that's, my takeaway is to examine that for myself. How do I come across?
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Sounds like a good place to start with yourself.
Yeah.